capturing two more settlements in Russia's Kursk region, according to the Ukrainian president. We're also learning new details tonight about a deadly Russian airstrike on a hotel in eastern Ukraine. That strike killed an employee from Reuters news agency and left several others injured. The State Department confirms an American citizen is among those injured. CNN Global Affairs analyst Kimberly Dozier joins me now. Kimberly, what is your reaction to Ukraine's advances into Russian territory?
Well, it's kind of remarkable that the Russian response has been so paltry that not only are they not pushing the Ukrainians out, but they can't seem to stop their advances. And that has me curious because generally, look, this is like a chess match or a game of Go where one opponent does something and then the other opponent responds. The Russians are often very slow to respond on the battlefield, but it has me wondering if Putin has looked at this situation and said Kursk could be the thing to use to motivate the Russian population, in that when you talk to a number of Russian specialists in the US government, they say Putin hasn't been serious about winning the Ukrainian war. If he was serious, he would mobilize his entire population. He would draft more soldiers to make up for his losses on the battlefield. He hasn't done that. Well, he probably hasn't done that because popular opinion would rise up against him unless Russians felt endangered. And the Kursk attack is making them feel very threatened.
A new report from Politico says that Kyiv is using its battleground success to pressure the U.S. to lift some weapons restrictions. Now, for now, the White House still isn't ready to do that. But is it possible they'll change their mind?
At this late stage in the Biden presidency, I don't think so, especially in that the Ukrainian forces are already making progress on the ground in Kursk. And there is still the fear that if the Ukrainians hit something key or something that is very important to Vladimir Putin, that he would step up attacks and go back to the nuclear threats that he was making before. So I don't think you're going to see that in this presidency in the few months left.
Now, what happens if Ukraine continues to make advances into Russian territory? Where does this go?
Well, the challenge is, depending on how much territory you take, you've got to put manpower in there and logistics to hold that territory. And that means in a sort of a man-intensive war where you have so many Ukrainian troops engaged on the Eastern Front against Russian forces there. I mean, how do you cover all of your bases? At some point, you have to pick and choose. And if too many forces get sent to Kursk, that could weaken their defense along the Eastern Front, and then surely Russia will take advantage of that.
What is Zelensky's endgame here with this push into Russia?
We really don't know. Beyond what he said out loud is that they want to create a buffer zone. There were thousands of attacks that were being launched from the Kursk territory into Ukraine, enabling Russian advances. So to have some sort of buffer, if they can keep it, could be very valuable to heading off some of those attacks in the future.
But this must add to the pressure on Putin, right? This is on his home turf.
If it were a free and fair media in Russia and people could express how angry they were at being driven out of their homes by Ukrainian forces, perhaps. What you hear from Russia watchers is all along the borders with Ukraine, the populations that are exposed to war are unhappy with Putin's policies. But the closer you get to Moscow, Putin's in control of that media, and he tells the narrative he wants out there. And that narrative is, see, NATO has backed Ukraine, and Ukraine, an authoritarian government, is now pushing into our territory. This is what I warned about all along. And of